I don't know how many years.
Yeah,
I first saw Metal Queen back on Much Music back in the day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's been a while.
I actually got to interview you in 2019. You got put in Absolute Underground.
Oh, okay.
And it was when you did your Live in Germany release.
Oh, right. Were you in Europe at the? Oh, when did you do this? This was when I played at Rock Ambleside. Correct?
No. It was an email interview. It was also done through Nathan. I did it on the website. It was an email interview then.
Okay.
And yeah. And then I put it on my website, but I kind of contribute to Absolute Underground as well, and they gave it a full spread because, well, you're Lee Aaron, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Hey, awesome.
So thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes, it's an honor to be here. I'm glad that there's no activity around my home right now. I live on acreage property, and the properties to the east and west of me have been sold to a developer. And yesterday I was trying to do Zoom and Skype interviews, and they were cutting down massive trees on the properties next door to me. So it was like the entire time, and I'm going, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I just like so loud. Anyway, but we don't have that right now, thank goodness.
So I've heard the new album, Radio On. I've heard the full album. It sounds fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
From start to finish.
Thank you.
I can't believe that you guys, well, I don't know if it was just you or who else contributed to writing, but you know, in your bio it says that you wrote all the songs in one weekend.
Well, as a band, yes.
Yes.
So, you know, with some of the material, you know, I might have brought a little bit more to the table, you know, with some of the, you know, other songs, my guitar player might have brought a complete full riff into the sessions and things like that. I'm the main lyric and melody writer, but yeah, you know, what I can tell you is that I know that magic happens when we get in a room together as a band, and I wanted to write an album that had a lot of spontaneity, and so I said to the guys, let's just get together and woodshed for a weekend and bring your best 3 or 4 ideas and let's see what happens. And the result is Radio On, you know. Everybody in my band is, you know, I'm very fortunate. I work with wonderful musicians, Sean Kelly, my guitarist, Dave Reimer, my bassist, and John Cody, my husband, who's my drummer. We all have arrangement and songwriting skills, you know, and so yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really expecting to write a whole album, but we did. By the end of the weekend, I'm like, I kept just, every time we would work through a song and I'd go, oh, dudes, I have a lyric idea in my songbook right now that's going to work with this. And I would step up to the mic and sing. And by the end of I would just record it as soon as we worked the song up. And then by the end of the weekend, we had 13 new songs. I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. And the result was Radio On. So very excited about, I'm just excited about continuing to write and record at this stage of my life because, you know, I was very productive in the 80s and early 90s when I was a younger person. And then as we know, grunge happened and kind of sidelined all of the acts that were associated with this sort of classic corporate rock of the 80s. When grunge happened, it was you couldn't get arrested. And at that point in time, I did some artistic exploration into jazz and blues. I did an opera. I did, and I toured quite extensively for my jazz act as well at that time. Then I got married and had my kids in the early 2000s and spent a decade raising my children. And then when I came back in 2016, with another rock, I always knew I would make another rock record. I always knew that I would. My kids were 8 and 10 at that time. And I was, you know, I just finally had enough creative, I think, brain space to be able to focus on making a record again, because it takes a lot of creative energy raising kids. So,
sure does, yeah.
And but then when I came back in 2016, I was like, oh man, I've just got so much to write about, and I feel so like I've been had all this bottled up creativity for over a decade that was just dying to get out. And I feel like I'm in this whole new creative tidal wave in my life again, where I'm just wanting to make records and pump out as much creative material as I can. So yeah, going through a very creative phase right now.
Is that partially due to COVID? Because I know a lot of people, a lot of people have not only opened their own gyms, but they've also opened their own studios. Like a lot of people are getting back and, and really, like Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, yourself, people are still making albums, but Paul McCartney did all of his from home. Well, yeah. I don't know if we would have made I don't know if you're aware, I released a Christmas album independently last year. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so
that was quite nice.
That probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for COVID. But what ended up happening is that what we did was we had gone into the studio. We were scheduled to record the bed tracks for Radio On, like get our good drum tracks in a big room and the raw bass and drum tracks and a scratch vocal track. Those are your beds, obviously. We were scheduled to go into Afterlife in Vancouver, which is the former Mushroom Studios, in the middle of March of 2020. And we all know what happened in the middle of March 2020.
Yes.
Was COVID.
Yeah.
Exploded around the world, and it was in the forefront of the news. And so we went into the studio, and then all of a sudden, within a couple of days, things just got so weird because everybody was kind of freaking out. My guitarist was like, I got to go home to be with my family because the airlines were looking at whether they were going to, be shutting down. And it was just a really crazy time. So the energy level was very high, but also the stress level was fairly high when we were in the studio to record our bed tracks. Luckily, we managed to squeeze in 4 days and get the raw tracks for Radio On, all in the same room, all making eye contact with each other, which was a wonderful thing. So unfortunately, my guitar player, he had to go back home a day early. Right. I came in on the final day with my bass player, Dave, and we recorded. Dave did some acoustic guitar overdubs, and I did the piano tracks for 21 and Devil's Gold on the final day. So we did utilize our time, and then everything went into lockdown after those 4 days. So luckily we got our bed tracks, but the rest of the tracks for Radio On were completed in our home studios. So what we ended up doing was we were like, okay, rather than look at this like it's a curse, let's look at it like it's an opportunity. So what we all did is we all got on the phone together and we're like, we need to bump up our studios so that we're all on the same platform. So we're all working in Logic Pro, Apple Logic Pro and we all got ourselves, like Sean and I got the Universal Audio preamps. And so it's all basically world-class equipment in tiny boxes in our house. So, and because we were set up like that, we were able to produce Almost Christmas, which was our Christmas album, which, by the way, I should let you know, it's going to be re-released on Metalville globally this Christmas with 2 bonus tracks, 2 original bonus tracks, and a new cover. So,
oh, really?
Even if you already have it, you might want to get it again because it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, Radio On. What brought the title around? I mean, it's just you and a tape deck. It's pretty basic. And I love how the video starts, just you putting the cassette in. Like, that's so old school. Put the cassette in and hit and play, and you just groove into your own music. It was a lot of fun to watch that video.
Thank you. Well, yeah, we were just kind of like thinking, let's kick it old school, right? Like, let's just do something fun. And, I grew up listening to vinyl and cassettes. How about you?
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just thought that would be fun. And we wrote a song. There's obviously a song called Radio On. And it's always nice if you have a track, a title track that can be your album title as well. And the theme of Radio On, the song, is about how, we're all getting older and more mature. And in the last few years, we've lost people. We've lost some of the world's greatest rock stars in the last 5 to 7 years. Bowie, Prince, you know, just to name a couple, right? People that seemed to me young and vibrant. We didn't expect to see them go, you know? And so it just sort of had my brain thinking a little bit about mortality, but also about the fact that music is such a beautiful thing. And even after these people are gone, their music is timeless and the music will live on forever. And so Radio On is really a song about, it's a hopeful song about mortality, because it's all about the legacy of music, right? The legacy that music leaves. And so we just thought it was a real positive title. So we called it Radio On.
Cool. I like that now that I know the backstory and the reasoning as to why. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So the album kicks into high gear, song number 1, Vampin'. Like and it continues straight through until 21. 21 slows it down, more of a ballad. You're actually playing the piano in the video. You were playing the piano in the studio as well?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I know. I don't. A lot of people go, "Oh, you play piano." It's like, well, yeah, I've played piano my whole life, and I do a lot of my writing on piano. But I play guitar too, but I'm a hack. I'm a self-professed hack on guitar. I play enough to like play good rhythm on stage, and I can certainly write a song on guitar. But Sean Kelly is the virtuoso of the band.
Great.
And yeah, so and I just never really had played on keyboards on my records, and but this album came along, and we didn't want to bring extra bodies into the studio. And again, like, I don't consider myself, you know, I'm no Elton John, I'm no Liberace on piano, but I'm a competent player. And the guys in the band were like, you know, this song really, you wrote it on piano, and it needs a simple approach. You should just play it. And I'm like, okay, well, and so I did.
It's nice, and the video is really nice and simple and pleasant, and you know, it really accompanies the song, I think.
Thanks.
So one of the things that we kind of touched on the last time I talked to you in the interview was your work with special needs kids. It's not something that you don't really discuss much, because everybody's talking about your music, right? But you have a background in that as well.
Yeah, I have a degree in special education. I went back to college and got that when my son is doing great, by the way. He was diagnosed as high functioning autistic in grade 7. Took us that long to get him diagnosed because he was kind of one of those weird kids that falls between the cracks. So he's like, he wasn't socially unable. He was very social, because a lot of kids with autism struggle with social issues. He was overly social. So that kind of made him not a typical kid with ASD. And very, very bright in many areas. So, but he had learning blocks, and which made elementary school very hard for him. And so I wanted to help him. So I thought the best way I could help him would be to educate myself. And so I was able to go back and get that training and education, and it was very helpful for him. But that segued into me working, volunteering a lot at his school, which then conversely segued into some paid work with the school district, because I was good at what I did, and I was able to reach kids in various ways. I often would use music, you know, and, you know, I was able to reach kids. And I think, to be honest with you, and I think I've said this before, I think a lot of musicians, I think I'm probably a little on the spectrum. I think that being on the spectrum, I don't look at it as a disability. To me, I think it's a tremendous gift, because people on the spectrum see the world a little bit differently. And interpret the world, the messages that they receive from the world a little bit differently. And that can be a tremendous gift. And I found that I was very good at working with children that had learning issues, because I was able to go, okay, well, they can't learn this going down the beaten narrow path that the traditional ways of teaching them in school, but they can learn this way. If you integrate different mediums into their learning environment, that they're able to learn and the things that they're supposed to learn. And I was able to reach a lot of kids and help them achieve the required learning outcomes by just approaching it in a completely different way, which I think made me very good at that. And I'm not doing as much of that right now because of COVID, obviously, and because I've been focusing a lot more on the new album and what's to come. But yeah, but I do. There's one client in particular that I work with on a weekly basis still now, with a different agency here locally. And again, I don't talk a lot about this work because I have to respect the client's privacy, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And the client doesn't go, oh, you're Lee Aaron. They go, oh, there's a person. There's a person that I love to work with and is fun to work with, right?
And is compassionate towards what I'm going through.
Absolutely. Again, I think
my oldest son also has autism. He's high spectrum. And he found elementary school good, but it was the high school that gave him the issues. High school, he just wasn't. But he graduated. He still graduated. Oh,
that's great. And it's interesting because my son has done better in high school. I think because a lot of and also COVID has been a secret gift because a lot of the learning shifted to online, and he's very computer literate. Great. So, put it this way, when it comes to, say, science, if he has to write a written assignment with a bunch of diagrams, he's going to struggle. But if he gets to show his learning, like I literally taught this kid PowerPoint in grade 2 because I'm like, you can go source pictures and you can write things that are bullet points that show your learning and illustrate that to your teacher without having to write an essay. And it was eureka. It was like, it was the bomb for him to be able to show his learning with digital technology, Well, he put together an iMovie.
Yeah, it opened in a whole new capacity for him, right?
Right, exactly.
Express himself without the struggle of trying to get it down on paper.
Well, and a lot of kids with ASD, and I don't mean to single them out particularly, a lot of kids in general,
yeah,
it's a processing issue between getting the information that is here that they can talk about and tell you about to go from here out through the output of written output because they've got motor skill issues, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so, again, we could talk about this for hours. I could talk about this, but it's being able to get to know a child and recognize that, okay, well, this kid, they really struggle with written output. So don't make them do written output. But some teachers will go, no, you have to learn, at least they're not teaching cursive anymore in school, right? Right. You have to do printing and you've got to do written output. And I need to see an essay. It's like, okay, you can't do written output. Let's see if we can set you up with, voice to text technology. You can talk it into a computer and it'll type it out for you. And I can help you edit it, the mistakes, just being able to have someone who can do that for you and recognize that you can't express yourself this way. We can give you the technology that helps you be able to do it a different way. Right?
Yeah, because it is there. The technology is there.
Well, not only the technology, usually the intelligence is there as well. Yes. But it's finding the tool to be able to give that person the means to show their learning and express their learning.
Exactly.
Or sometimes it's just giving them the means to properly communicate, right?
Yeah, so, that's all. And each of them are different, so it all depends on each individual child too.
Absolutely. Well, there's no textbook ASD. That's what I find. Just like there's no textbook child with fetal alcohol, right? It's everybody's brain. And, just like there's no textbook human beings, everybody's brain is organized a little bit differently. Yep. Again, I'm like, I don't even like to say, give it a name. We're just all organized a little. We're all differently abled. I know that maybe is not so much the term that people use, but I like that term because I don't like to say it's a disability. We all have different abilities, and it's finding out what those are and how we can give people the means to show that their abilities and their learning and their communication.
Exactly.
Anyway, I could go on and on, but I won't. We're not even talking about music anymore.
It's quite insightful because, like I said, you don't really talk about it much, and I'm glad you were willing to share that with me, so thank you.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you've been doing your Instagram, and I noticed that you've been doing the Ask Lee Aaron.
Yeah.
So the most recent one, or at least the one I saw of you, was you were starting one, and then somebody called you on your phone, but you didn't edit that out or nothing. That I just thought that was a real nice touch of who you are as a person. Like, it just shows your personality.
Okay.
On that, it's like.
Well, when I started doing the Ask Lees, my husband was like, I was like, should I make it really like edited and make it really slick so it's like a commercial? And he's like, no. He said, I really think people will appreciate you being human. Yeah. And, just going over the questions. And so that's what I've tried to do. Plus, the whole thing of editing it's a lot more work for me. And social media can become your whole life and your whole job, as you know. And I just have too many other things going on. So I just try to film a, 8 to 10 minute episode once a week, answer a few questions. And, I'm even curious to know how much longer I'm going to do it, because I'm starting to get a lot of repeat questions now from people. Right. And I don't want to just keep pumping out the same content. So I think I'm going to do a few more. And then I might, just shift gears and do something different for the summer. And hopefully we'll get back to playing some live shows real soon.
Well, I noticed in the fall you've got a small tour coming up.
And where do you see that? Because on
your website? Or is that from last year?
If it's Europe, it's last year, because Europe's not happening until 2022.
Yeah.
But we might be doing some shows in Canada coming up. Yeah, later this year. Sort of waiting to hear. I've got a date right now in Alberta on the 30th of October, just before Halloween, but it's we're waiting to be able to lock it in. Everybody's waiting to lock things in solidly because of COVID, right? Yes. Even though a lot of the promoters are still selling tickets for things because they're all trying to survive right now, right? So
I know, because they've been shut down for a long time too.
Yeah.
You excited to get back out on the stage?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
That's an understatement,
yes.
Right?
Very much so.
Getting back to the Instagram, in that one you'd also had your son's drums were beside you, the electronic drum kit that he got.
Well, it's actually not electronic drums. There's just practice pads. But yeah, he's been interested in and taking drum lessons from my husband and trying to get me to teach him a little bit of guitar. The other night he's like, I want you to teach me the intro to American Idiot, Green Day. And I'm like, well, I don't even know it. I have to learn it first, So, and before I can teach him the chords. So, but he's been very motivated. Unlike my daughter, our daughter is very, very into musical theater and she's wonderful, but she's already telling herself that probably theater is not a viable career choice because there's no money in it. It's, and we just keep telling her, do what you love, be passionate about what you do. But our son is actually looking at, rock band as a viable career choice because he's seen that mom and dad have done it. It's a very different world though now, right? So
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And how have you seen the industry change over the decades? Like, because you've been around since the 80s, so there's some goods and bads, I'm going to imagine.
Well, I mean, digital technology is kind of a blessing and a curse. I love that I can record digitally and have complete control over my recordings, that I can do things at home. I can go record keyboards in my pajamas, and if I don't like the part I put down, I can erase it and put something new on tomorrow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The luxury of being able to do that is wonderful. This whole thing with social media, and I guess it's good because you can reach your audience that way, but I don't like how everything has become like a soundbite world. People's attention spans are so short. You put out a single and 2 days later, nobody cares anymore. It's like little, you put all this work into releasing a single and doing a video, and, a week later, it's gone. Nobody cares anymore because it's come and it's gone, and there's the next new thing out there. It's a very different world, and honestly, it's like having a new album that's really good, like Radio On. Like, I feel so good about this record. It's almost like it's not good enough to just have a new album. It's like you need some kind of controversy going on in your life. You need, some drama that, or you need to make some hugely inflammatory statement for people to want to be interested in you, because, there has to be some controversy swirling around you.
But that's never followed you, and you've done quite well.
Well, no, I'm glad.
Because I still crank up Metal Queen and What You Do to My Body, and those still rock after all these years.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you still love them. So, yeah, well, I just keep on keeping on and doing what I do and trying to stay creative. And again, I feel like I'm in a whole new creative phase of my life, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, it's exciting to hear the new stuff too, because everything comes through crystal clear, like the drums and everything, like when he's hitting the hi-hat or the ride cymbal. I'm a drummer myself, so I kind of hear that stuff.
Well, I have to give some kudos to Mike Fraser, who was my mixer on this album.
Right.
Who, as you know, has done some amazing things in the past. His most recent accomplishment was the last AC/DC album. This guy is incredible. And we're definitely going to work together again with him. He's such a gifted mixer. And he got all the clarity in the drums, and he got those beautiful organic guitar sounds that we wanted to hear, and the crystal clear vocals that sit just above the music. And so, yeah, very, very excited to work with him again, and very excited about the sounds he got on this record.
Yeah, because it almost sounds like a live recording in a way, because it's mixed so well. It doesn't, because it's digitally done, you can mix it the way that you want, but it just sounds like you all were in the studio together.
Well,
I know that's an old school way of.
Well, no, for the basic bed tracks we were.
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of energy and that you're feeling from those tracks is definitely came from the fact that they were recorded. The bed tracks were recorded live off the floor.
Right.
And but the majority of the album there were some digital tricks, but a lot of that and just so you know too, we recorded to a 24-track Studer tape machine. So that all of those original tracks hit tape. Then they went back into digital for some overdubbing. Then they went back to analog for mixing, because the whole thing was mixed on a huge SSL console with a lot of analog stuff in the back end. So I think some of those sounds you are hearing are analog, so which is why it sounds so warm and wonderful.
Oh, it does. It resonates with the eardrums. You put the headset on and you just rock out. Like, it's just.
Thank you.
I can't even pick a favorite song. Like, it's just good. It's good. It's just track after track. It's just consistently good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your continued expression of music all these decades.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm not done. I got 7 songs. I just finished writing the 7th song for our new record, which is going to be hopefully coming out 2022. I'm excited about
really?
that. Yeah. So.
Oh, That is exciting because then you're going to have this one, which comes out on the 23rd of July.
Yeah.
And then you're going to re-release your Christmas album with bonus tracks. And then you're going to have another album next year. Wow, it's
probably summer or fall. Oh, I'm writing a book. I forgot to tell you about that.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've been writing my memoirs.
Nice.
So I don't know that it's just sort of a biography, but it's just, who I am and my rock and roll adventures, trials, tribulations, the joys and the total screw ups that I've made over the years, and how that's all brought me to the place I'm at today. And yeah, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey working on that. I'm starting my 5th chapter. So that is hopefully something that is going to be put to bed by the time mid 2022 rolls around as well. So yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, you're just really keeping the ball rolling.
I've been, I just think that, I don't know, I just lately have been feeling like I have so much to do and maybe not that much time left to do it. So I just want to do as much as I can.
That. You're still quite young. We're all quite young still.
I'm just in a very, very, very creative phase, put it that way. So, yeah.
Great. That's great.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, it was lovely, lovely talking to you.
Same here, Leanne. An honor and a privilege.
Thank you. Well, I know. Totally keep in touch with Nathan or my, I think you can also email through my website to stay in touch and, keep on top of the new things that I got coming, and we'll definitely talk again.
Yes, I look forward to it. All the best to you and your family, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the year. And hopefully see you out here in Vancouver.
Well, yeah, hopefully we'll have a show here soon.
Yeah, in town here, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Take care.
You too. Thank you.